Welcome to the Startup Sidekick podcast.
Hello, everyone. I'm Claire Dobson, and boy, do I have an incredible guest on today's episode. If you're interested in startups and looking to grow and scale a company, then this episode is going to be a must listen. Our guest has made a huge impact in the sales and marketing world, especially when it comes to inbound marketing. She's currently the CEO of SmartBug Media and has really been through it all when it comes to startups. So everybody, please say hi to Jen Spencer. Jen, please say hi.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Hi, Claire.
Good to have you. I'm excited for this, Jen. I've read a lot about you. I've heard a lot about you. So we're going to dive in and get down to the nitty gritty.
Awesome.
Okay, so let's talk about, we go to your LinkedIn page. You've been everywhere from nonprofits to director to VP level, now CEO. What is something that your LinkedIn might not tell us about you?
Let's see. So it would not tell you that I just moved my twin boys into college last month. So I went from, my husband and I went from having a full house to being empty nesters. And so one is at University of Arizona in Tucson as a pre-business major. And the other one is at ASU's Polytechnic campus studying graphic information technology with a focus in user experience. So
wow, lots of changes.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Well, that's awesome. I went to U of A, so I'm definitely a big fan there. But yes, so all right, let's dive into the good stuff. We talked about in our pre-meeting, we were talking about net time solutions, and that's kind of what really got things started for you. So can you talk a little bit about your role and just maybe how scaling and growing that type of company, as I think there was about 30 employees when you joined versus later on when you were top 5 employees and all of that. So let's start there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the net time experience was a really pivotal part of my career because the organization was at a really cool point for them. So they had built a standalone SaaS solution that previously their product had only really been sold through distributors. And done, in conjunction with payroll systems or HRIS systems, because it was a time and attendance solution. They built something that really could integrate with any other kind of platform, so you could be like payroll or HRIS agnostic. And the founder and CEO brought me in and said, "I want to bring you in actually before I hire a sales leader, and give you a couple of months to ramp marketing." And he, said, "I have $1 million to spend on marketing, and I want you to tell us how we should do that." So really cool opportunity. And
very
unique. And having done a lot of my homework research, especially at other organizations on the inbound methodology and on HubSpot's product offering, and this is back in 2013, I knew exactly what I wanted to roll out. And so implemented HubSpot, implemented an inbound marketing strategy, built a team, and really started to generate inbound leads for that sales team. And so I went from feeding a sales team of 4 people with inbound leads to feeding a sales team of 19, all within a year. And there was a time frame of like a 3 to 5 year kind of trajectory for to try to become acquired, to package the company for sale. And after a year, actually Paychex came knocking on our door and wanted to acquire us. And so then we ramped so quickly and got a chance to take that company through acquisition, which was an extraordinary opportunity.
That's incredible. So when you entered in, when you got brought on, did you already have this like confidence, like this is what I'm going to do, I got this? Or did you have any of that like hesitation when, you usually join and get this big opportunity?
Well, I think I didn't understand the time and attendance space. I did understand that buyer persona, that HR leader, and that we were selling to from experience at past companies. And I understood that the problem that we were solving for that persona was significant in the organization, had a financial impact. And I understood behaviorally how to target different individuals depending on really who they were. So the role that the payroll manager played in that process of selecting the time and attendance solution, the role that the HR leader played, the role that the CFO played, the CIO played. And what I did is I actually had asked our founder for time weekly. And it started off on these 30-minute sessions where I just wanted these brain dumps from him. My initial intention was, I want to learn from you and like create content and then and kind of publish that under your brand. What it ended up actually happening is we would meet for hours at a time. And he really taught me the key differences between our technology and our competitors' technology. But really, it's like, I just knew based off of the problem we were solving and what the sales motion was going to be. I knew that inbound was going to work, or my gut, everything, all of the data and my gut instinct said inbound was going to work. And we really got early traction. And so it didn't take long to start to see those results, which just enabled us to expand our efforts and invest a little bit more in the strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. So so let's transition to Allbound a little bit. We'll kind of play off both. So at Allbound, you were one of the first employees, right? Really early stage. There was so much opportunity. There was a lot of risk too.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you feel after you had a success making that step over to Allbound?
So I think if we actually go back even further in my career, I have had a mantra of always, taking some risks and being prepared to fall back on myself. So when I started my career, I was a high school English and drama teacher.
Okay.
I was happy. I was successful. But I had an opportunity to join a nonprofit professional regional theater company and that's how I ended up getting into sales and marketing. And I thought, well, I'm going to try this. And if it doesn't work, I know I can always teach. And I got into marketing. And then my first opportunity, even kind of getting into software, is like the same thing. It's the same idea of like, well, I know I can do these things. So I'm just going to keep building on these skills. So when I was at Paychex, which was a nearly $2 billion company, and I had all these opportunities, I could have grown within that organization. At one point, I was at this where I had like 5 or 6 job offers, right? Or opportunities paths I could go down. And there were like 4 of them that were like very like, well, this is exactly what you're going to get out of this. Like I could see it. I could see the path, right? Very, very safe. But with Allbound, it was really early. It was new. It was pre-product, pre-revenue, which means it was people with an idea and like a little bit of like maybe some like seed money, right? But it was the thing that I thought, I'm going to regret it in my career if I don't try this. And if it doesn't work, I know I am good at all these other things. Like I know I can kind of fall back on myself. So that eliminated some of that risk kind of for me, but it also, I understood, I tried to understand, what the co-founders point of view was, what they were, how they were trying to be disruptive in the space. I had lived the life of the persona that they were planning to sell a product to. So I understood the value. So I didn't see it as being extraordinarily risky because I believed in what the product was aiming to do and the problem it was looking to solve. What was risky was, of course, it was so early stage, right? And like, were we going to succeed or not? But if you don't take risks in your career, you never know, right? And I was in a position where I felt like, okay, we could take a risk.
Yeah. And do you, Do you think that's something inherent that you've always been driven to, that like risk taking, like from when you were a kid and growing up, or is
Hmm.
that something you learned along the way in your career?
Hmm. I think I've always been ambitious.
Okay.
So I've always been, I think if you were to like kind of think back, if I think back to report cards from even as early as elementary school, the teacher would always say I had a hunger for knowledge, a hunger to learn. I also, you see, it would say that I talk too much in class, but um, I honestly think I was talking to people around me about whatever we were learning. I think
Yeah.
I just was so excited about whatever that was that we were talking about. Um, but but I think that hunger was sort of innate.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, I definitely, my family experienced some tragedy in the fall of 2001. My younger brother passed away from a fairly short battle with cancer, and and when that happens, something like that happens in your life, you realize how precious kind of your life is, and not to squander opportunities. And maybe may put me in a position where I was more open to taking risks because I felt, well, this is my chance, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm very sorry to hear that about your younger brother, but I think for everybody listening, there's always someone has some tragedy that happens in their life. The scale can be different, but I think the lesson is taking it and learning from it and
Mm-hmm.
figuring out how you can make what you have better off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you've absolutely done that, and I know your little brother would be proud.
Yeah. Thank
So,
you. Thank you.
of course, I mean, so when you're looking at Allbound and you made that risk, like, do you think when someone else is looking to join a startup and maybe they've never,
Mm-hmm.
maybe their version of a startup is 30 to 50 employees, right? They've
Mm-hmm.
never truly been an early stage employee, but they get this opportunity. Do you think there's certain characteristics that they have to have in order to be successful?
Yes, I do. And I used to make a joke around the Allbound office that people think they want to work for a startup, but they really just want to wear flip flops to work. Can we'd always try to like weed those folks out because it's hard work, right?
Yeah.
It can be a lot of fun, and but it also can be very very taxing, right? I think the benefits of working for a startup is that you're going to have the opportunity to get your hands on things that you never in a
Hmm.
million years might have, right?
Yeah.
So where I left a large organization after we were acquired, where there was someone in the company that all they did was launch emails. Like that's it. Like that was their whole job. There was someone
Yeah.
who all they did was monitor Twitter, right? Bigger corporations are going to have that kind of specialty. I was able to go really broad with my skills and really
Mm.
develop skills that I wouldn't have had a chance to.
Yeah.
Sometimes just for lack of like there not being anyone else to do it. So you're just kind of thrown in. Even you think, yes, I was responsible for sales when I was at Arizona Theater Company, but it was a different kind of sale. Then
Hmm.
it wasn't a B2B sale. The first time I was demoing software myself was at Allbound.
Yeah.
And, when I joined, I was originally asked to run marketing. I mean, I was applied for the job to run marketing.
Yeah.
And within the first week being on board, the CEO said, "Hey, how about you do sales too?" I had never led, I'd been adjacent to a B2B
Yeah.
SaaS sales team, but never in the driver's seat of it. But startups are an extraordinary place to get experience, same as nonprofits. I mean, that's how
Yeah.
I grew over 8 years in nonprofit at the theater company, was by always raising my hand, always saying, "Hey,
Hmm.
let me help you," always asking, "Hey, can I pull up a chair? Can I shadow you?" And gosh, there's just such extraordinary opportunity for growth in a startup like that.
Yeah. So you have to be ambitious and wanting to learn, but also the other side is realizing that you might not be successful every day and there's
Mm-hmm.
going to be hard days. So learning how to balance both of
Mm-hmm.
those is very important. It's
Absolutely. Absolutely.
it's very it's it's interesting to hear you describe it because I mean, this is my first startup worked at an agency before. So like I kind of knew part of it,
Mm-hmm.
but I never really was fully in a company. So this working at Abstract has been my first one. And it's exactly, I think, as you explain it, like you always have to be ready to step up and help.
Yeah.
And you learn every day. There's something new every day.
That's the most important thing, right? Is that and that's where I think you can grow so quickly, where people have asked me like over the years, like, how did you move so quickly up in your career trajectory? And it was, being in a position to raise my hand for things, to try things on, to get a sense of what I liked and maybe what I didn't. And oh gosh, a startup is a great place. You just have to your point, like learn from every interaction that you have, and iterate all of your strategies and skills from there.
Yeah. On that note, because well, now you're a CEO, so now you have the other side of it.
Yep.
But working with a founder, there's just that different level of, I think, responsibility a founder takes on, and but still as an early stage employee, yes, you get equity, but like it's not the same, right?
Yeah.
So working with a founder, did you have any issues with that, or how did you navigate that path?
Yeah. I think it's really important to understand that founder, that the company is like their child, right? It's like their baby. There's probably a lot of their own like financial capital that they've put in, and their own like sweat equity that they've put in. And so I think it's really important to be able to empathize with a founder who's leading an organization. And so I think that's kind of one thing, is just understanding the human element of things. I think it's also really important to understand kind of their vision and like why they created this organization, why they created this product. And the more you can sort of tap into that, and you can like use it as part of your marketing and your sales, kind of talk tracks, and the way you connect with customers is really important. So for me, I've always tried to just embody, like put myself in that founder's shoes. And to a point where almost every organization I've been at, I've been mistaken for being the founder of the organization, because I just got really in lockstep with the founder. There can definitely be challenges sometimes, right? Because a founder might make more emotional decisions, or kind of have more emotional reactions. And so that's why, when you're like in the revenue side, you really have to understand your data and use your data to have those type of conversations with a founder. So you're not going to win a battle. You're not going to win an emotional battle or like a point of view perspective battle. So they have a really strong point of view perspective, and that's why the company exists, right? And so that's why you have to be on board with what that perspective is and not try to change it. But then if you feel things are not going the direction that, the founder is wanting it to go, to have the data to be able to support that conversation, I think is really important.
That is valuable information that I haven't heard yet, but everybody said it in a different way, but just putting it like, have the data, right?
Yeah.
If you want to argue something, you're not going to win on a, emotional level. I think that's so true. And it's great. It's great advice for anybody looking who's maybe struggling with that as well. But I also think there's the other side of it, and you have to think like a founder, exactly like you said. You have to put yourselves in the owner's shoes and pretend that have the same responsibility to be able to think that way. Because if you always say, oh, well, it's theirs, or let them do it, like, it's not we don't want a yes man mentality, right? You have to be able to articulate and move the product forward, move the marketing, move the sales forward.
Yeah, I think nonprofit really prepared me for that. Honestly, I mean, I don't know. I think this is just innate in me, but as a nonprofit leader, I learned how important it was to treat every dollar as if it were your own. So every dollar spent, and we really lived that as an organization that was cash strapped and had a community to kind of that we're responsible for. And like the same goes for a startup. It's if you treat every dollar like it's coming out of your own checkbook, how does that shape like the way you spend your time, the way you spend your budget, and having that perspective. And so I think early stage companies really need to have people who have that ownership mentality. Once you get to a certain size organization, you're not going to have that. You're not going to have, 200, 300 people with that sort of ownership mentality. But early stage, when you're, below, I think 20 or 30 people, having everyone kind of have that sentiment it can be really powerful in helping propel the organization forward in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you keep going, in a sense of like how each time you keep pushing yourself for more, to take on more responsibility? Is that just, you, or is there something that you feel like drives you to continue to push yourself for more?
I think it's part of it. It's just me, right? Yeah. I love what I do. I have to love what I do. Like I love what I do. And so it makes it, because there's hard days, of course, there's challenges, but they're all worth it, because you're passionate about the work that you're doing and the team you represent and the team that you lead. But so over my career, it's been, I want to gain more business acumen. I want to strengthen that business acumen. I want to learn. I want to be able to answer questions. I want to be able to help other businesses grow, right? So that was what propelled me forward, right? What motivated me to continue to grow and learn. And I always felt like knowledge was power, right? And and I could be a better leader and better asset to my team the more I learned. Now, in my seat now, I'm very proud of the culture we have as an organization at SmartBug. We're almost 200 people. And I see our way of operating as a marketing agency is different from a lot of other agencies. I see the way we focus on our people and how us having happy employees leads to better client outcomes. I can see it. I have the data to prove it. And so that makes me want to expand even more. That makes me want to grow from 200 employees to 300 to 500 to 1,000, because I look at the good that we're doing for our people and for our clients. And I just want more of that in the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Everybody should want more good in the world. So I'm glad you are spreading it.
Yes.
Is there anything you would have done differently throughout your career or journey, looking back?
I don't think so. I don't think there's nothing kind of big and glaring that's like, oh, I wish I would have taken this path or that. I think any of the things I wish I would have had, more confidence or spoken up for myself. Like I can think about instances throughout my career, but honestly, I think it was too much to expect me to do anything different or say anything differently at that stage. I think everything that's happened it's all really like fallen into place, and this strategy of just trusting my instincts, kind of leaning into those. Looking at like what's the best, like how do I make myself indispensable for the organization that I'm working at in that moment? That has just paid off really well for me over my career. So no, I don't think I would have done anything majorly different, right? I wish there's times I can think I wish I could have, knowing what I know now, given myself a little bit of advice or guidance, but
don't we all?
Yeah, for sure.
So transitioning to CEO side now, you're running the company. What skills or what qualities do you look for on your leadership team?
On my leadership team, I'm looking for people with really strong business acumen, right? Who maybe, even if they don't know the agency world that we're in, they understand the way they can wrap their head around the way we make money the way we lose money, right? What's important drivers in our organization, the role that people play. That's a really important thing because our product is our people as a professional services organization.
Yeah.
So anyone on my executive team, whether they're in finance or they're in HR or they're in technology, they really have to understand that we're not a machine. We are human beings that are producing work. So that's a really important part of our culture. And really then what ends up differentiating us from our competitors, like even throughout that sort of sales process. So you might look at the way that we roll out changes, the way that we make announcements to our team, and the way that we do it might probably feels really, really different from the way it would be done in an accounting firm, even like something that would also be professional services. So that part of it, the culture of who we are and understanding how to meet our team where they are and listen to them and take their feedback and adapt to that feedback, that's like a real top, like intangible that I need to have on my executive team.
Yeah, that's huge. And it makes all the difference, especially with how big you guys are, 200 employees. Like, you have to have the culture emanate from everybody. And if it's missing somewhere, you're going to see that dip. And it all starts with the leadership, right? And that, as they would say, lead by example, or, I can't recall what Simon Sinek would call it, but I'll remember it later. I know.
Well, I know he has his book, Leaders Eat Last.
Yeah.
So I think that's a piece of it too, is it's a lot of our culture is built from like the bottom up, like there's top down, but a lot of it is bottom up. And being able to kind of embrace that and giving the team kind of the space and flexibility to be able to be additive to our culture, and having an executive team that embraces that, as opposed to more of a old fashioned way of thinking of everything has to be like top down. So we try to have it from both sides, right?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And it makes a big difference too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So is there, for someone looking to join a startup, let's just talk big picture, is there any misconceptions? But I mean, you talked about people just want to wear flip-flops to work, but is there anything that you think people should know before they join a startup, and if it's going to be the right decision for them?
They should know that they are most likely, or at least in my experience, they're going to have the most fun in their career that they've ever had, but at the same time, they're going to work harder than they've ever had. So they're going to have a new version of busy, what it means to be busy. And so I think it's kind of that the mix of like the work, like where work hard, play hard, I think really, really comes from, because you end up spending more time with those people in that startup than you will do your own family. It's just the way it will be. And so it's also, you have to really, really believe, like really be all in, understand the value that you provide. I think that's what gets you through kind of the harder days, right? But it's a joy. It's like you're getting to build something. You're getting to be part of something from the ground up. Very reminiscent to me of when I worked in the theater, where we would do all of this work and then we would go to opening night and we would watch that show would premiere on stage, and you'd see the audience respond to that performance, and knowing you played some small part in that show, making it, out into the world. And it made all the difference, right? It made all of the late nights and those tough days kind of feel like nothing, like it was really worth it. And I think a startup can be very much the same. So I would say join for the reasons of like career growth, join for the opportunity to get to do a lot of things that you might not otherwise get to do in a larger organization. Look at it as like, what other skills can I add to my tool belt, as opposed to just looking at salary, compensation, right? You're not going to get the best salary. You're not going to get the best benefits, right? It's just, that's not it. And there are bigger enterprise companies you can go to that you're going to have that, but you're not going to learn as fast. You're not going to grow as quickly. So it's a trade-off.
Yeah, it's the grind. You got to put
Hmm.
in the work. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you do it all again? Everything that you've been through, the decisions you made, would you do it all again?
I would do it. I would not change what I've done, right? Um, I would, I would not want to, I would not want to start over right this second. Like I'm good
Yeah, yeah.
where I am. But yeah, I would definitely do it all again. Every piece kind of ended up leading to kind of that next stage. There's nothing about my career. There's nothing about working in a startup that I regret at all. At all. I think there's no way I would be where I am now if I hadn't taken those risks, taken those chances in my career.
Love it. Any advice before we kind of wrap things up? Any advice to someone who maybe just joined a startup, is struggling, or maybe someone who's considering it versus more of a big enterprise role?
Yeah. I think just know, like, not all companies are the same, right? You can have very different cultures from one organization to the next. So if you were at a startup and it was great, and you're going to join another one, don't assume that it's going to be the same. On the other side, flip side of things, just because if you had a bad experience, don't assume that you'll have a bad experience at another startup. I think it's important to understand the culture of the organization and look for companies that have very transparent leadership, that are very transparent, like maybe even like open book type of organization where you understand how money is being made and how money is being spent. Um, and and I would also look at customer happiness and how many customers the organization has, and whether that product is really a viable product in the market. Because there's a lot of, there are a lot of startups, and there's a lot of, especially in the technology space, there's a lot of technology that's out there. And so if you're going to kind of hitch your wagon to an organization, you're going to put in this kind of time and effort, just you want to know that, you've got a really solid product and you're solving a really important problem for someone.
Yeah.
So I would just make sure of that. And then to the, like, do you go big company? Do you do small? I mean, that's a personal thing. Like I've had friends where they've said, you know what, they feel more comfortable, more secure in a larger organization. They're comfortable with slower growth, right? They don't want to move. They don't need to move as quickly. And that pace is much more comfortable for them. So startup world is very fast paced. So there's something you have to know yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I love small companies. Like for me, it's just, I don't think I could just do one thing. And it's more because like, oh, I want to learn this and that, like I always want to learn and grow. And I think that is a personality thing. And I don't think there's anything wrong if someone does. You don't have to force yourself if you want to
Right.
try and join a startup. Like find the right company for you.
Yeah.
And what you said about leadership, I think is so true. And it's something like you really have to believe in the person as much as the product. And I know when I joined like Abstract with Greg, it was like he wanted to change the way things are, and he just has this belief that there's this technology can do it and it can make everyone's life easier, and it's things he wish he had. So
Yeah.
it was just that belief that you're like, okay, I'm ready, like I agree, let me jump on. Like you have to have that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So what's next on your journey? I know you want to grow the company. Like what's
Yeah.
next?
Yeah. Well, listen, we acquired our first, we made our first acquisition as an organization in June of 2021. And that allowed us to expand into the direct to consumer e-commerce space. I foresee additional acquisitions in our future of other agencies. And so doing that, I love the M&A space. I love kind of matching up organizations. I think in another life, that's something I would love to do, maybe like the private equity space, and really support M&A. So that's a piece of it, but it's also important. I'm looking forward to creating more career growth paths for our team members, and watching them kind of grow and succeed. And yeah, so I'm heads down on just continuing to do good work, for and with SmartBug, and with our tier one marketing technology partners who are HubSpot and Klaviyo, and helping, grow in lockstep with them. So it's a good place to be right now with those kids off to college and this kind of time. We're just in a place of transformation as an organization.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if you haven't heard, if you're listening and you haven't heard of SmartBug Media, you definitely need to go check them out. I'm very excited for what you guys are doing. It's exciting to follow the journey. Where can people follow you, contact you, as well as SmartBug?
Absolutely. So for SmartBug, we're smartbugmedia.com. So if you're interested in understanding more about inbound marketing techniques, we have a lot of content on our site. Very, very prolific blog and resource center, lots of templates and tools that when I was leading marketing at a SaaS startup would have been extraordinarily beneficial to me. So please take advantage of all of those free tools that we have. As far as I'm concerned, I am pretty active on LinkedIn. So go ahead and reach out to me. It's Jen Spencer and Jen Spencer SmartBug. I think there might be another Jen Spencer out there. I'm sure with that name. But send me a connection request and just let me know that you heard me on the Startup Sidekick podcast so that I have that kind of context for how we're getting to know each other digitally.
I love that. Everybody go check out SmartBug. Go follow Jen Spencer. You will not regret it. Thank you, Jen, for a great episode today.
Wonderful to be here. Thanks, Claire.
Make sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify or visit abstract.ai, abstrakt.ai to learn more. Keep kicking ass. Peace out.